My friend, I'm Liam. After more than 3 decades of working with people over the age of 50, there's one thing I've seen very clearly. Our bodies change faster than we expect once we cross 60. Have you felt that too? In the morning, just rolling over in bed or taking a few steps to the floor, suddenly your knees feel stiff, your shoulders heavy, and sometimes you even hear that cracking sound in your joints. Many people tell me, "Doctor, I never thought I would grow old this quickly." And I usually smile gently and say, the truth is, your body isn't betraying you, it's simply telling you, it's time to take care of me in a different way. What's interesting is this: most of those aches don't come only from age or from genetics. One factor, something that seems so simple yet is incredibly powerful, is what we eat every single day. Have you noticed? Most of our meals revolve around vegetables, but not all vegetables are friends of our joints. I once had a patient, a woman in her 70s, who complained that her knees were swelling and aching more and more. She thought it was just the weather, but when we looked closely at her diet, we realized she was eating certain vegetables that actually made her arthritis worse. Just by changing a small part of her diet, after a few months, she was walking much more lightly. You see, vegetables can be medicine, or they can become a burden on your bones and joints if we don't understand them well. After 60, our skeletal system is like a support pillar that has carried the weight for decades. It starts to weaken. Every vitamin, every nutrient we take in is like adding a wooden beam or a rope to help the pillar stand firm for many more years. But if we add the wrong things, those that corrode or rot, then the weakening process speeds up. Picture your body as a garden. Some plants, when you grow them, enrich the soil and make it fertile. But other plants, if you let them spread, will suck up all the nutrients and leave the garden dry and lifeless. Vegetables in our diet are just like that. Some keep your joints flexible, soft, and smooth, like oil on an old machine. But others make them stiff, inflamed, and brittle, like rotten wood. And that's exactly why I want to share this with you today. After 60, there are 5 vegetables you should limit or even avoid, and 5 others you absolutely must add if you want your legs and arms to stay strong and steady. Because yes, age may slow us down, but it doesn't mean we have to live in pain. I truly believe, if you just understand and choose wisely, you can keep your flexibility and enjoy every step you take, at any age. You know, there's something that often surprises many of my older patients when I tell them, the vegetables we eat every single day can directly affect the health of our joints. Sounds strange, right? After all, we've been taught since childhood that eating more vegetables is always good for us. But in reality, whether they're good or not so good depends a lot on the type of vegetable, how it's prepared, and the condition of your body at that moment. Joints aren't just hard bones connected together. They're more like a finely tuned machine with cartilage to reduce friction, ligaments to keep everything stable, and joint fluid to keep things moving smoothly. And just like any machine, all those parts need regular nourishment. That nourishment, more than anything else, comes from what we eat. Vegetables are one of the richest sources of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants our bodies can get. Take vitamin C, for example. You'll find it in green vegetables, bell peppers, and broccoli. Vitamin C is like the raw material your body uses to make collagen, natural glue that keeps cartilage flexible and resilient. Without enough vitamin C, your body produces less collagen. And when cartilage wears thin, you start to hear those little crackling sounds in your knees every time you walk. On the other hand, some vegetables contain oxalates, or compounds that interfere with calcium absorption, leaving your bones weaker, more brittle, and more prone to pain. I remember a gentleman, about 65, who loved eating red amaranth greens. He believed they were good for the blood. What he didn't realize was that this particular vegetable is high in oxalates. Eating too much caused calcium in his body to crystallize instead of being absorbed properly. The result? His bones became weaker, and he began to suffer from frequent back and hip pain. Only after adjusting his diet, replacing that vegetable with ones rich in vitamin K and magnesium, like spinach, did his condition start to improve. There's another aspect most people overlook. Different vegetables can directly influence inflammation in the body. Some are packed with antioxidants that help put out the fire of inflammation, calming swollen joints. But others actually make that fire burn hotter, like pouring oil on the flames. That's why some people notice their joints ache more after eating certain vegetables like eggplant or potatoes. Think of it this way: your joints are like an old door. If you want that door to open smoothly, you need to oil the hinges. Vegetables are that oil. The right kind keeps everything moving with ease. The wrong kind, thick and full of grit, makes the hinges rust faster. The difference lies entirely in what you choose to put on them. And here's the key: after 60, our bodies don't have the same reserves they once did. Small mistakes in our diet can snowball into big problems. A plate of pickled vegetables you enjoy tonight might leave your knees swollen tomorrow. But a bowl of kale soup or a few slices of carrot at dinner can help nourish your collagen so that when you wake up in the morning, your steps feel steadier. So remember, vegetables aren't just a side dish on your plate. They're daily medicine, quietly influencing the strength of your bones and the flexibility of every step you take. And if you want your years after 60 to still include peaceful walks in the park or holding your grandchild without pain, then learning which vegetables to eat and which to avoid is one of the most important first steps you can take. There's something I'm pretty sure many people have never really noticed. Not every vegetable that looks colorful and tastes good is actually good for your joints. I'm talking about the nightshade family, especially green tomatoes and eggplants. These are common vegetables in many households, whether they're stir-fried, stewed, or grilled. But behind their appeal lies a secret that anyone over 60 needs to understand. Both of these vegetables contain a compound called solanine. Now, that may sound unfamiliar, but think of it this way. Solanine is like a natural defense shield that plants in the nightshade family produce to protect themselves from insects and pests. For the plant, that's great. But for us humans, especially those with sensitive joints, arthritis, or degeneration, solanine can be a real troublemaker. I once had a patient, a 68-year-old woman, who absolutely loved grilled eggplant. She told me that every weekend, when the family gathered, her favorite dish was always eggplant grilled and dipped in fish sauce. But then she noticed a pattern. A few days after eating it, her knees would flare up with pain, and even holding a glass of water made her hands tremble. At first, she thought it was just a coincidence. But after we monitored her diet and cut out eggplant for a few weeks, her pain improved dramatically. When she tried eating it again, the symptoms came right back. That was the moment she finally realized that her beloved dish was, in fact, making her arthritis worse. So what does solanine actually do to the joints? Simply put, it fuels inflammation. If you already have small areas of inflammation in your joints, which is very common after 60, then solanine is like pouring gasoline on the fire. The result? More pain, more swelling, and sometimes even stiffness and discomfort. Now, I know some of you might be asking, but what about ripe tomatoes? Aren't they good for the heart? And you're absolutely right, ripe red tomatoes are rich in lycopene, a fantastic antioxidant. But green, unripe tomatoes have much higher levels of solanine. Eat too many of those and you may end up with bloating, nausea, and, most importantly, unhappy joints. That's why the key isn't to avoid tomatoes altogether, but to eat them proper, like the ripe red ones, not the green ones. Eggplant is similar. It does have some heart health benefits, but for people with sensitive systems and weak joints, eating too much can tip the balance in the wrong direction. In more than 30 years of practice, I've seen countless cases where simply cutting back on these everyday vegetables made a huge difference. Patients walked more easily, slept better, and no longer lay awake at night because of aching joints. Think of it like this: our joints after 60 are fragile, like an old bridge that has weathered many storms. If we keep loading heavy trucks onto that bridge, it will break down faster. Solanine is those heavy trucks. Each time we eat it, we add more weight to the bridge. But if we choose lighter loads, the bridge stands firm for longer. So my advice is this: if you notice your joints hurt more after eating eggplant or green tomatoes, try cutting them out for a while. Your body will give you an answer more clearly than any textbook ever could. Each person's body is different, and listening to it is the most reliable compass you'll ever have. My friend, aging already comes with plenty of challenges. We can't stop our joints from getting older, but we can choose not to make their burden heavier. Sometimes, just a small decision like skipping that plate of braised eggplant or not buying green, unripe tomatoes can give you many more days of easy walking and joyful moments with your family. My friend, there's one vegetable almost every household in America eats, whether it's at the dinner table or from a fast food drive-thru, and that's the potato. Now, let me be clear, potatoes themselves aren't bad at all. In fact, they're a healthy source of starch, packed with vitamin C, potassium, and fiber. The problem comes when we prepare them the way most people love them: deep-fried, crispy, loaded with salt and butter. And that, unfortunately, is a trap for your joints once you're past 60. Think about a plate of golden, crispy French fries. Just looking at them makes your mouth water, right? But during the frying process, potatoes transform into little storage bins for saturated fat and even trans fat. When those fats enter your body, they act like slow-burning fuel that stirs up inflammation everywhere, including in your joints. Younger folks might be able to fight that off, but after 60, when the immune system is weaker and your cartilage is already thinning, even a small spark of inflammation can stiffen your joints and leave you aching for days. I once had a patient, a 72-year-old gentleman living outside Chicago. He adored French fries, even called them his afternoon companion while watching baseball. But then his knees began to swell, and every time he went down the stairs, he had to cling tightly to the railing. When I asked about his diet, he chuckled and said, "Doc, it's just a few fish, how bad can it be?" Yet after he decided to cut back on fried potatoes and replace them with boiled potatoes and greens, within 3 months his arthritis symptoms eased up dramatically. He told me, "I never realized such a familiar food could quietly make my legs suffer so much." There's another point most people don't realize. When potatoes are fried at high heat, they produce a compound called acrylamide. Research has linked acrylamide to inflammation and even cancer risks. For the joints, acrylamide worsens chronic inflammation, a key factor that speeds up cartilage breakdown. Picture your joints as a machine that's been running for more than 6 decades. What it really needs is a light, clean oil to keep everything moving smoothly. But when you eat fried potatoes, it's like pouring in thick, dirty grease. The machine doesn't just slow down, it breaks down faster. Now, I'm not saying you need to ban potatoes from your life. What matters is how you prepare them. If you love potatoes, try boiling, steaming, or baking them in the oven with just a little seasoning. You'll still enjoy their natural, hearty flavor, while feeding your joints with fiber and vitamins instead of inflammation. So here's the question I want you to ask yourself the next time you're sitting in front of a plate of crispy fries. Is that few minutes of pleasure really worth the sleepless nights of joint pain that follow? After 60, every small choice you make at the table adds up to a big difference in your quality of life. A simple switch to fewer fries, more greens can be the gift that keeps your legs strong and steady for many years to come. My friend, I know corn, what some of you call maize, has been part of so many childhood memories. Just thinking about it brings back the smell of roasted corn at a country fair, or a hot pot of boiled corn on a chilly evening. Corn carries a sense of warmth, a taste of family. But when it comes to joint health, especially after 60, corn isn't always the friendly companion we imagine it to be. The first thing to understand is this: corn is very high in starch. A single boiled ear of corn can have about the same amount of carbohydrates as a whole bowl of white rice. What that means is, after eating it, your blood sugar rises quickly. And for older adults, whose metabolism isn't as efficient anymore, that often leads to a state of silent high sugar in the blood. Over time, high sugar doesn't just damage the heart, it also fuels inflammation throughout the body. And inflammation is one of the main culprits behind painful, swollen joints. I once had a patient, a 66-year-old woman, otherwise healthy and devoted to eating naturally. She believed corn was a safe vegetable, so she ate it almost every day: boiled corn in the morning, corn porridge for lunch. After a few years, though, she gained weight quickly. Her knees began to buckle under the extra load, and walking became a real struggle. When I analyzed her diet, she looked at me, surprised. "But doctor, I'm just eating vegetables, how can that be bad?" That's when I explained. Corn isn't really a green vegetable the way most people think of it. It's closer to a starchy grain. Eating too much is like eating extra rice or white bread. The result? More weight, more pressure on the joints. There's another detail many people overlook. Most corn grown today in the US and other countries is genetically modified, often intended for industrial use or processed foods. These types don't carry the same balanced nutrition as traditional corn. And corn-based products like corn syrup and corn starch are some of the biggest culprits behind the high sugar, high inflammation cycle. For older adults, already at risk of arthritis and osteoporosis, too much corn only makes things worse. Picture this. Your knee joints are like a bridge. Over the years, that bridge has grown weaker. If your weight increases, it's like piling more bricks and heavy loads onto that bridge every single day. Sooner or later, the bridge will sag and crack. Corn, when eaten in excess, is an indirect way of adding more weight to that fragile bridge, and you'll feel it yourself in every heavy, painful step you take. Now, this doesn't mean you have to ban corn from your life completely. Having a boiled ear of corn once in a while, savoring its natural sweetness, is perfectly fine. But if you make it a daily staple, replacing your green vegetables and fruits, you're turning your meal into a starch feast that harms your bones and joints. That's why I often tell my patients, let corn be a treat, a small joy, not the main dish. If you love its sweetness, balance it out, pair it with greens, beans, or healthy nuts. This way, you get the flavor you love, without sacrificing joint health. After 60, every small choice in your diet is like placing a brick on the path ahead of you. Choose wisely, and the road will be smooth and light. Choose poorly, and the path becomes bumpy, painful, and full of obstacles. With corn, just by adjusting the portion, you can turn it from a burden into a gentle pleasure, a taste of memory that warms your heart, without weighing down your steps. My friend, for many of us, the taste of pickled vegetables, pickled mustard greens, or salted eggplant brings back such vivid memories. Just the smell alone can transport us to the family table of our childhood. A jar of golden, crunchy pickles, or a few spicy, salty eggplants. These dishes remind us of the warmth of home, of our parents. But here's a truth that, after 60, we need to pay close attention to. Those nostalgic foods can quietly make your joints hurt more. The reason is simple: salt. Pickled vegetables are made by soaking them in strong brine. The fermentation makes them tangy, crunchy, and tasty. But the high salt content is what harms your joints. When you eat too much salt, your body tends to hold on to water to keep balance. The result? More swelling in the joints, more inflammation. And anyone who's ever experienced joint pain knows just a little swelling is enough to make walking feel heavy, as if every step carries a load of stones. I remember a 70-year-old gentleman from Texas who once told me, "Doctor, I've quit alcohol. I've cut down on fatty meats, but I just can't give up my pickled eggplant." He ate it nearly every day, using it as his way to fight off boredom at meals. But over time, his hands and knees swelled up badly, especially in the mornings when he woke. When I advised him to cut back, he chuckled and shook his head. Then, after a hospital stay for high blood pressure and severe arthritis, he finally agreed to try fresh salads with just a little olive oil and light seasoning instead. The result amazed him. Just a few months later, he told me his hands were less swollen and his legs felt freer when walking. Salt doesn't just make the joints swell, it also robs the bones of calcium. Science has shown that eating too much salt increases calcium loss through urine. That means your bones are gradually leaking precious nutrients, becoming weaker and more brittle. After 60, when the risk of osteoporosis is already high, Eating pickled vegetables every day is like pouring fuel on the fire. Picture your joints as a dry field. What they need is refreshing, life-giving water. But instead, you keep watering them with salty brine. At first, the plants might look fine, but over time, the soil hardens, the plants wither. That's what salt does to your joints, making them swell, inflamed, and deteriorate faster. Now, I'm not saying you can never touch pickled vegetables again. A little bit, once in a while, is fine. But what matters is the amount and frequency. If you eat them every day, if they become the star of every meal, then you're quietly shortening the lifespan of your bones and joints. Instead, try fresh vegetables, tossed with olive oil and a light touch of seasoning. You'll still enjoy that refreshing crunch and tangy flavor, but without making your joints cry in silence. My friend, I know it can be hard to give up a habit that has been with you for decades, but ask yourself, is that fleeting pleasure at the table really worth the months and years of limping, of aching hands and knees? Joint health is a precious gift, and only you can protect it. If today you learn to cut back on salty pickles, tomorrow your legs will thank you with lighter steps and greater ease. My friend, in many Asian households and even here in the U.S., among immigrant communities, red amaranth is often seen as a blood-nourishing vegetable, something that cools the liver and refreshes the body. A hot bowl of red amaranth soup, with its deep crimson color, makes many people believe it's the symbol of nourishment and vitality. I've had countless patients tell me, "Doctor, I eat red amaranth every week because people say it helps with circulation." And yes, red amaranth does have its benefits. But once we're over 60, the story isn't just about nourishing the blood anymore. We need to look at what it does to our bones and joints. Here's the part few people know. Red amaranth is high in oxalates. Oxalates are natural compounds that, once inside the body, can bind with calcium and form crystals. Over time, those crystals can build up into kidney stones. Even more concerning, oxalates interfere with the absorption of calcium. And as you already know, calcium is one of the most important building blocks to keep bones strong and joints working smoothly. I remember very clearly one case, a 74-year-old woman living in California. She loved her amaranth soup and considered it a light, healthy meal. But she often complained of back pain, and her knees grew weaker by the day. When she went in for tests, the doctor found her bone density was low, and she already had small kidney stones forming. As we reviewed her diet together, it turned out she had been eating red amaranth almost daily for years. After making some change, adding more greens like kale and spinach, cutting back on oxalates, her bone health began to improve, and the pain gradually eased. Think of it this way. Your body is like a construction site that needs cement to hold everything together. Calcium is that cement. But if you eat too much oxalate, it's like pouring sand into the cement. It can't hold properly anymore. The result? The structure of your bones becomes fragile, easier to crumble. I'm not saying red amaranth has no value, but like with anything else, too much can backfire. For older adults, especially those already at risk of osteoporosis, joint pain, or kidney stones, making red amaranth a daily staple is like cutting off your own supply of calcium before it even reaches your bones. There's a truth I always remind my patients. The older we get, the less margin for error our bodies give us. At 20, you can eat almost anything without feeling the consequences right away. But after 60, even one small habit can tip the balance of your health in the wrong direction. Eating red amaranth occasionally is fine, but treating it as your superfood and consuming it constantly can weaken your joints while you believe you're doing something good. That's why my advice is simple: balance. Enjoy red amaranth now and then, but don't let it dominate your plate. Instead, focus on vegetables rich in calcium, vitamin K, and magnesium, nutrients that directly feed your bones and joints. My friend, wisdom doesn't always lie in choosing the most powerful food, but in knowing what to moderate. A little red amaranth can bring joy to the table, but too much becomes a burden on your joints and kidneys. After 60, Let every meal be an act of gentle care for your body so your legs and arms can remain strong and steady for the years ahead. My friend, after talking about the vegetables we should avoid, I want to introduce you to a wonderful companion for our joints, broccoli. You've probably heard this vegetable mentioned often, with its reputation as a superfood. But today, I want you to see broccoli in a more down-to-earth way as a special gift from nature. Made for our legs and arms once we're past 60. Broccoli contains a powerful compound called sulforaphane. Don't worry, I'm not about to turn this into a chemistry lecture. Just think of sulforaphane as a loyal guard, standing watch at the gates of your joints, ready to keep the fire of inflammation from spreading. And inflammation, as you know, is the real culprit behind swelling, heat, and pain in the joints. Sulforaphane has the ability to put out those little sparks before they grow, slowing down the process of joint degeneration. I remember one of my patients, Jim, age 67. He used to complain that his knees hurt every time he played with his grandchildren. He had tried all sorts of things from painkillers to physical therapy, but nothing gave him lasting relief. When I asked about his diet, it turned out he almost never touched broccoli. I just don't like the taste, he admitted. I suggested he try adding just a little lightly steamed, with a drizzle of olive oil and garlic. At first he was reluctant, but slowly he got used to it. A few months later, he came back and told me, "Doctor, I can't believe this. My knees hurt so much less. I think broccoli has actually become my new favorite vegetable." That story is just one example among many. Science shows that sulforaphane doesn't just reduce inflammation, it also helps protect cartilage, the cushion that allows bones to glide smoothly over one another. Think of cartilage like a rubber mattress between two bricks. If the mattress is thick, sitting on it feels comfortable. But if it's thin and hard, it hurts. Sulforaphane works like a repairman, patching up that mattress and keeping it strong for longer. And broccoli doesn't stop there. It's also rich in vitamin C, which your body needs to make collagen, and vitamin K, which is essential for strong bone density. Together, they form a powerful trio, reducing inflammation, protecting cartilage, and strengthening bones. Not many vegetables can do all three at once. Some people ask me, "Doctor, I really don't like broccoli. Do I have to eat it?" And I always answer, you don't need to eat a whole plate of it. Even just a few florets at dinner are enough. What matters most isn't the amount, it's the consistency. A little broccoli every day is far better than a big plate of the wrong vegetables. If you don't enjoy the plain taste, try steaming it and drizzling a little olive oil, or saute it lightly with garlic. Some families even blend it with fruit into a green smoothie. Don't be afraid to experiment. You might be surprised how grateful your joints become. After 60, every vegetable we choose is not just about filling our stomachs, but about nourishing our freedom of movement, about keeping our legs strong enough to carry a grandchild, or to take an evening stroll in the sunset. With all its nutrients, broccoli truly can be one of the keys to holding on to that joy. So, my friend, imagine this. What if tomorrow morning, you wake up, step out of bed, and your knees don't ache the way they used to? How much lighter would life feel? Sometimes that change begins with just one small choice: adding a few florets of broccoli to your plate today. My friend, you've probably heard the phrase green superfood, and one of the vegetables that always makes that list is spinach. This leafy green shows up in all kinds of Western dishes, salads, green smoothies, even simple stir-fries. But what I want to emphasize today is this: for anyone over 60, spinach isn't just a vegetable. It can truly be seen as a natural medicine for your bones and joints. Why is that? Because spinach carries a trio of powerful nutrients: vitamin K, magnesium, and antioxidants. Let me explain simply. Vitamin K is like the architect. It makes sure calcium goes to the right place, into your bones, instead of floating around in your blood vessels. Without enough vitamin K, calcium can build up in arteries, causing stiffness, while your bones remain hollow and fragile. Magnesium acts like the builder, strengthening the structure of your bones and relaxing your muscles. And the antioxidants in spinach are like silent soldiers, protecting your joints from the attacks of inflammation and aging. I once had a patient, Linda, 64 years old, living in Florida. She didn't care much for vegetables. She thought drinking milk alone was enough calcium for her bones. But after a minor slip that left her with a broken wrist, she realized how weak her bones had become. When I suggested adding spinach to her diet, she hesitated. "I'm not used to this vegetable," she said. But her daughter started blending spinach with bananas and apples into smoothies. A few months later, at her follow-up, her bone density had improved, and more importantly, she felt more flexible. Her joints weren't as stiff in the mornings. She smiled at me and said, "Doctor, now I start every morning with my little cup of green medicine." Spinach is especially valuable for those at risk of osteoporosis. Studies show that vitamin K in spinach plays a direct role in increasing bone density. Think of your bones as a building. Vitamin K is the cement that binds the calcium bricks together. Without it, the building becomes shaky, ready to collapse. Imagine your joints as a door and your bones as the support pillars. If the pillars are weak, the door creaks and wobbles. Spinach is like strong timber, reinforcing those pillars so the door stays steady for years to come. Some people tell me, "Doctor, I don't like the taste of spinach, it's a little earthy." I usually smile and reply, "Then try it another way. Mix spinach with your morning eggs, toss it into soup, or blend it with fruit to soften the flavor. You don't need to eat a whole basket of it every day. Just a small handful is enough to make a big difference." After 60, the most precious thing isn't eating more, it's eating right. Spinach gives you flexibility in your joints, strength in your bones, and above all, the feeling that you're doing something kind for your own body. So let me ask you, if simply adding a handful of greens to your plate could keep your legs strong for another 10, even 20 years, wouldn't it be worth it? I believe your answer would be yes. And if you haven't started yet, today is the perfect day to put a little spinach on your plate. My friend, we've already talked about broccoli and spinach, two green heroes when it comes to protecting your joints. But the journey of caring for your health after 60 doesn't end there. There are 3 more companions I'd love for you to meet and invite onto your plate every day: carrots, kale, and green beans. Each one is like a puzzle piece, and when you put them together, they form a complete picture of joint health. Let's start with carrots. Most people know carrots for their reputation as good for your eyes, thanks to their richness in beta-carotene. But what many don't realize is that beta-carotene is also a powerful antioxidant that helps reduce inflammation in the joints. I remember one patient, Robert, age 70, who loved gardening. He told me that once he began adding carrots into his meals, sometimes raw in salads, sometimes juiced, his finger joints felt less swollen, and it was easier to grip his gardening tools. You see, sometimes a small change in diet helps us hold on to the simple joys of life. Next, let's talk about kale, often called the queen of greens. Kale is packed with calcium and vitamin C. Calcium strengthens bone density, while vitamin C is the raw material your body needs to produce collagen, natural cushion that protects your cartilage. Without enough collagen, joints can dry out, stiffen, and ache with movement. Think of collagen as the rubber padding between 2 bricks. If the padding is thick, you sit comfortably. If it's thin and hard, it hurts. Kale provides the material to rebuild that padding, so your joints can keep moving smoothly. I often suggest patients toss kale with a little olive oil and fresh lemon juice. The tangy flavor softens the leaves, makes it tastier, and keeps the nutrients intact. And finally, let's not forget green beans. They're a fantastic source of plant-based protein, which plays a vital role in rebuilding the muscles around your joints. Remember, your joints can't protect themselves if they don't have strong muscles supporting them. After 60, muscle mass tends to decline quickly, putting more pressure on the joints. By adding protein from green beans, you help your muscles stay nourished and strong, which in turn lightens the load on your joints. I once worked with an elderly woman who had knee replacement surgery. By eating green bean soup regularly and doing gentle exercise, she was walking again without a cane just a few months later. Think of it this way: Carrots are like the painter, bringing bright colors to your joints by calming inflammation. Kale is the architect, building the foundation of bone and cartilage. And green beans are the builders, strengthening the muscles that surround and protect the joints. Together, they form a golden triangle that keeps your body flexible and resilient day after day. I know changing eating habits isn't always easy. Some patients tell me, "Doctor, I just can't get used to kale, it's too bitter." I usually smile and say, try preparing it differently. Blend it with sweet fruit, or roast it until it's crispy. With carrots, you can boil, stew, or juice them. And green beans. Keep it simple, just a bowl of soup or porridge is enough to nourish your body. The most important thing is not perfection, it's starting, and then keeping at it. After 60, joint health isn't just about nutrition, it's about the way we listen to our bodies. Every carrot, every leaf of kale, every bowl of green beans is a gentle message to yourself. I still want to go further. I still want to walk steady for many more years. And believe me, your body will hear it. It will answer you with lighter steps, with mornings that no longer feel heavy with pain. My friend, after this journey we've taken together through the vegetables to avoid and the ones to add, you've probably seen one truth very clearly. Not every vegetable is good for us once we're past 60. Vegetables are often called golden foods for health, but if we choose the wrong ones, they can quietly become a burden on our joints and bones. On the other hand, if we choose wisely, vegetables become natural medicine, calming inflammation, nourishing cartilage, and keeping our steps steady and strong. I've worked with thousands of older patients, and there's one reminder I always share. Eating well isn't just about living longer, it's about living more comfortably. A person may live many more years, but if every day is spent shuffling with aching knees or stiff, swollen hands, those years won't feel like joy. You deserve to enjoy your later years with unhurried steps, peaceful walks in the park, and the happiness of holding your grandchild without sharp pain in your joints. And the key lies right there, in your daily meals. Remember to steer clear of vegetables that harm the joints like eggplant, green tomatoes, or overly salty pickles, and replace them with broccoli, spinach, carrots, kale, or green beans. You don't need to change everything overnight. Just small, steady steps are enough. Your body will notice, and it will thank you. Of course, nutrition is only half the picture. The other half is movement. After 60, you don't need intense workouts. Just 20-30 minutes of walking each day, gentle yoga, or a few stretches in the morning can make all the difference. These small habits, combined with the right foods, form a shield that protects your joints and helps you stay flexible for years to come. My friend, aging is not an ending, it's a new chapter. A chapter where we learn to cherish each step and each meal. If today you begin caring for your joints with smarter choices, then tomorrow you'll reclaim the freedom in every stride. And believe me, that freedom is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself for the years ahead.